Welcome to Wash Talk, everyone, the Carwash Podcast. I'm your host, Rich DiPaolo, and joining me today, I'm happy to welcome in Brian Epstein, a regular contributor now of Professional Car Washing and Detailing magazine and carwash.com, current car wash consultant, and also a former operator based in Phoenix, Arizona. So, Brian, it's so great to see you, and thanks for doing this interview with me today.
Oh, Rich, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. I've been following PC&D for as long as I've been in the car wash space, a long time.
Very cool. Yeah. And you and I actually reconnected last year. In fact, right after we published the top 50 list, you had some great ideas on how to make that list even better that I'm still kind of mulling over. So we appreciate you reaching back out, and it's turned into a nice partnership here where you've written a few articles for our magazine to share your expertise with some fellow operators out there, and of course doing this podcast interview. We certainly appreciate it, Brian. We're here to discuss some of these new pricing trends that you and I have noticed in the market. We got to talking a few weeks back, sharing some stories, and we decided let's do a podcast episode on it. But before we go into those pricing changes and those trends that we're seeing in the market, I understand you grew up in upstate New York. I've gotten the pleasure to know you a little bit over these last few months, and eventually you moved out to sunny Phoenix, Arizona. I'm sure to maybe escape that snowy weather and maybe to find some better golf courses, perhaps. So
there you go.
So how did you get started in the car washing industry? Can you share with our audience a little bit more of your background?
Yeah, so you're right. I'm a Western New York, upstate New York, Syracuse guy, born in Syracuse. So I have a ton of family. I love it up there in the spring. Want so much in the summer. October is great, and then skip the rest of it. So I was an Army brat. I moved 22 times growing up. So I landed in a lot of places, moving around the country. At the time, I didn't think it was the best thing in the world. I didn't particularly like it. But then as I moved into adulthood and certainly business, I think it served as a really great vehicle and tool that just allowed me to succeed in so many places, to adapt quickly to different environments, which translates into business. Came out, yeah, you're right. We finally landed here in Phoenix. My dad thought it would be a great place to live and retire, and that's exactly what he did. He was a real estate developer. So I got my roots in real estate development quite early, when he dragged me around from site to site it really started in middle school and all through high school. And then I went to Arizona State, so I'm a Sun Devil through and through. And after that, I loved Phoenix. I live in Scottsdale. It's my primary residence, and I've been out here for 5 decades. You're right. I've never left. And so I worked really for outside of the car wash space for two companies. Early on, I knew I wanted to be my own boss. I got into the car washes. Really, I'm very mechanically inclined. Mechanically, I love to rip apart cars from middle school and shop when we had shop way back in high school, and some race cars, and then a lot of muscle cars, and so I found that intuitive and educational from a really young part of my life. I just loved going to car washes, honestly, when I was just a kid. It's just something I think most kids like to do. My degree's in finance and business. I had a company I started in 95. I sold that in 2005. Completely different. It was a film, video, and event production company. So I had 10 years of really good, solid business experience under me. I sold that company, which then gave me the leverage to step into the car wash space that I noticed, and I drove 5 miles one way in 2005 to go to one of these express car washes. And we only had like maybe 2. Really, in 2005, we had maybe 2. And I loved that thing. I loved how it cleaned my vehicle. I loved the vacuum aspect. I loved that it was a step above the traditional self-serve car wash with the wand and drying it off and so on and so forth. And so I took a really deep dive, deeper than most. So when I say I got into the car wash space in 2005, that's when my journey began. It's not where I started building car washes. It was a 24-month deep dive. I had the luxury of being able to do that. And I flew around the country. I met some of the best operators from 2005 to 2006 who were open, honest, transparent. It was a kind of a different animal back then. They taught me the difference between the different equipment manufacturers and what I should look for, and then they gave me the chemical perspective, and they gave me the financial perspective. And these guys they were just open books. They were great, and they're still some of my best friends today. And so, if it wasn't for those pioneers, if you will, in the express car wash industry, I wouldn't have been able to step in and do what I did. So I thank those gentlemen. And then I had an opportunity to buy a little piece of property. It was so tiny. We weren't even sure if we could get a 100-foot tunnel on there. It was, if I remember right, it was 26,000 square feet. I started in 2007. So kind of almost right at the downside of our recession, our Great Recession. And I started building in 2008, our very first one, 26,000 square foot lot, super tiny. I'll share this. I paid $250,000 for the property. I built a 100-foot tunnel. I put in what I thought was the best equipment, car wash equipment, and 10 vacuums, 100-foot tunnel, 2 pay stations. And the first day we washed 1,032 cars, I think. And, during that, leading up to that time, having been in real estate and real estate development, I could build, and I understood construction, and I understood the process of entitlements. So that gave me a leg up. That really helped me to understand. I always say I'm not in the dirt collecting business. I'm in the car washing business, and I don't want to collect a bunch of dirt and then not be able to use it for express car washes. And I've seen that happen from time to time, just because that whole process of that due diligence didn't get fulfilled. So I like to help people in that respect. But yeah, it was a pretty short build process. We built them in 8 to 9 months back in that year. And yeah, when I built it, it was our that first week was overwhelming in a good way, in a very good way, because I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And then I never looked back. We just never looked back. There wasn't all this M&A that was happening in 2007 and 8. The economy's crashing in 9, and the blessing in that for me, Rich, is I just had my nose to the grindstone, and I just kept moving forward. I was kind of oblivious to what was going on out there, which was a really good thing. Because I just kept building car washes. People kept lending me money, and I kept building car washes and operating them hands-on. I love being a hands-on owner operator. And it just became a passion of hard work, of having fun, of meeting great people, and then it was a good run. But that's how I got into it, just because to me, an express car wash is it's a large living organism. It truly is. It's constantly in motion. It's moving. It's like a car. It needs to be lubed and greased and oiled. And there's all these things you got to do, like change your oil every 3,000 miles. You flip a chain. There's always something that you need to do at a car wash. And for me, it was express car washes, but any car wash. So that preventative maintenance, that just was instilled in me at a very young age, and I just loved it. I loved it, and I loved, more than anything, the customers. I love my customers. And the name, it was Hogwash Express. We started with 400 crazy names and got down to 200 or 150 in a little focus group, and ended up with Carwash Express. And that was a home run to come up with that brand, that value recognition, to differentiate yourself from somebody else, all the things it takes to become a brand. I think so important. Yeah.
So much to digest in that response. Yeah, first, obviously, ignorance is bliss. Sometimes it could work in your favor, right? And also, operators helping other operators, such an important and great part of our industry. And you bring up a great point. To be a great car wash operator, unless you have these people in place, it is good to be a jack of all trades and enjoy to be hands-on and fix the equipment yourself. I also took a carpentry classes or shop in high school, and now I'm 25 years into a writing career. So that just tells you what kind of work I did in carpentry. I put out a lot of shoddy work, and I had to pursue something else, Brian. So we got in on the program today to talk about some of these pricing changes. And, pricing is something of a science and an art form when you're pricing for any business, but especially car washing, because you want to offer an economical choice for drivers, but you also want to show value as you go up the ladder on the menu, right? So what did you notice when running your car wash or basically helping other car wash operators? What do you notice some of the traditional pricing strategies? Have you noticed any effective ones over the decade that proved to be superior than other strategies?
So when we talk about pricing strategy, I mean, it's always been that tiered structure of price versus strategy. We didn't have, up until around maybe 2013, 2014, those big sexy LCD displays that we see now. Man, I wish we would have had those early on, because that gives you that dynamic and ability to do a lot of things with that big LCD screen. But when I got in, and as you'll remember, it was all about the $3 express car wash. I mean, that was it. It was a $3 express car wash, and how can you make money at $3? And is it a loss leader? Is it not a loss leader? There is so much controversy about that. And I think what I've noticed, the people who do well and have done well, is the people who differentiate themselves. And they don't just follow, but they lead. And they lead in price structure. They lead in the way they handle their prices, and they show the value. So whether it's they have someone at the POS letting their customer know the differences between the car wash packages, which is what we did. We just didn't abandon the POSs, and even though they're just unbelievable. They do so many things with the analytics and everything. But I still think, to have a one live body out there, maybe, is a good thing. To help that customer without being pushy or a hard sale, just to help so they understand what a carnauba wax is, or a hot wax, or now it's graphene, right? So we have all these ceramics now. But that we eventually broke away because nobody ever wants to be the first one to break away from, say, a $3 best car wash. And I remember we were one of the first, and we went from 3 to 5. Okay. Because there were so many other things that were dependent upon that. We had price, increases all throughout, from utilities to labor to, all sorts of costs. But I think, then we had, back in the day, they're still around. I've seen them from time to time. Groupons. We had Groupons. Man, we had all sorts of different deals back then than we do now. They were really hard to track. They didn't integrate with our POS system that we used at the time. I see them sometimes, and I just got a car wash yesterday. Some BOGOs. So buy one, get one. If you have that LCD display, and I keep going back to that because I think it's such a dynamic tool, that you can use, if you use just 50% of all the tech in that, then you can do a lot of stuff. You can do a lot of things that I want to get into later, and I know you have some questions about it, and I won't go there yet, but it's differentiating yourself from what everyone else is doing. And I also believe in supplying the customer with first-class product. I mean, there's no excuses to dilute a chemical or to it's clean, dry, shiny. That was our motto: clean, dry, shiny. Every single car, no excuses. And that dynamic pricing structure. We didn't have a chance to use again those displays, but we had some really captivating, sexy menu boards at the time that I think we probably, of course, I'm going to be a little biased. Back in the day, we went above and beyond with one of the major builders of signs, menu signs, and when they saw our and coming out of a very creative environment with my first company, I had some really creative people I could go to design something that just wasn't, just wasn't square. It had depth, it had color, it had texture, it had a design on there. And you build the logo into it, and you see that now everywhere. But back in 2008, 2009, I mean, it was pretty square, and that was it.
Understood. Yeah. Now, are you seeing on the flip side? Are you noticing any big mistakes that operators are making with their prices and their menus that they should try to avoid?
So here's the crazy thing. True story. When I said I went yesterday to get a car wash, I really needed one. I went to a top 20 express car wash chain. There was no menu board, and there was no pricing upon driving into the lane. Now that's a first. I'm not sure if this is a trend, but that's a first that I had never seen before. Top 20 express car wash chain. And I don't think so when you talk about change, that was a change. I don't think that's a great change. I think a customer wants to know, just like when they sit down for a meal, what it costs. And what does it come with, by the way? So they were taking that person at their POS and really, and I know we talked about this, just really pushing that membership to the max, because I think that's what that was all about. We don't really care about our retail pricing. We don't care about it.
Right. Yeah. And my next question was going to be, how has membership affected prices in this market? So why don't we stay on that topic of membership? How has membership affected prices in this market?
Yeah, I think the retail price has been driven up, and that's a multiple of factors. That's a lot of M&A that's occurred. That's a lot of debt service that's occurred over the last 5 years or so. But I think you're right. I think that retail customer is 8, 12, 15, 22, 25. I was in Utah last week on vacation, and I actually saw Express Car Wash was higher than that. So I think the memberships, and back in 2007, 2008, 2009, people still didn't understand really the concept and the financial understanding of how those memberships work. There were two really great POS providers, and they did, and they understood the analytics, and they were really smart. And with a finance and a business degree, I believe in reoccurring revenue. I mean, on the first of the month, I'd like to have an FD deposit in my bank account to start the month off. So we bought into that philosophy really quick. There were some owners that didn't for a long time. They just wanted the cash and the retail customers, and they didn't want to deal with the memberships. But I've seen the memberships where I was yesterday. I thought it was a very fair price. I think they may even come down a little bit in the last 12 to 24 months. I thought it was very fair. They didn't try to lock me into a contract. So I've seen that happen lately. This operator, very good operator, really reasonable. Try it for 30 days, pay one price, very low price. It was $28. Best car wash, beautiful car wash, beautiful buildings. And then, so I see those monthly memberships going up. I've heard, but I've not yet seen one where it's monthly only, but I have heard of it.
Yes, and we're gonna hear about it a little bit more in a couple of minutes. I want to share a reader email with you here.
Yeah, and so I thought about that a long time ago. Like, we should be like a gym. Like, we should just have membership. You can't walk into an Anytime Fitness. I work out at Anytime Fitness. I've been a member there forever. Gradual price increases, very fair, but Joe Blow just can't walk in off the street. I could see that possibly happening on a larger scale in the express car wash industry.
Interesting. Yeah. It seems like other washers are agreeing with you as well, because Brian, I'd ask for your patience for this next question here, because as I mentioned, I did want to read a recent reader, I guess, his email to us. Just some background, and our website for the magazine is carwash.com, right? Famously carwash.com. It's a great URL, as you can imagine. And I write about this a little bit in my editor's note for the upcoming August issue. When you compare the homepage of carwash.com to our two closest competitors, our web traffic share is about 97% compared to those other two homepages, which is really remarkable, right? So a lot of that traffic is driven through organic search. So people wanting to learn about the car wash industry, or people or companies in the car wash industry, somehow they'll find us. So for us to receive customer feedback, even customer questions and complaints, it's not uncommon. I get these emails quite a bit throughout the year. So I wanted to read one to you that relates to our conversation today on pricing. So this was in response to an article or a news release that we actually posted to carwash.com talking about a private equity firm investing in a major top 50 chain in our industry, conveyor car wash chain in our industry. They were investing and taking over several of these washes and rebranding under this major chain's brand. But here's what the reader says, and I'll just kind of and I use that term reader loosely because they just found us through an organic search, I'm sure. But I want to redact and kind of change some of this information to protect the innocent. But basically, I suspect someone will read this and just delete it, but I'm not finding a better way to ask my question. I tried to find direct contact information either for this private equity firm or this car wash's office, but she was unsuccessful. So here's the reason for her email. Until this takeover, the car wash's locations nearest me offered single purchase options for each level of their service. I returned today to get their quote unquote full service wash, only to find out that since the management change, I can no longer purchase just one wash. I must sign up for a monthly fee. I'm over 70 years old. I don't drive extensively, and I definitely don't need a full service wash every month, nor does that fit into my budget. Just have a little bit more, so bear with me, Brian. The attendant at the location was extremely polite and apologized several times, noting that a lot of people didn't want to sign up for this ongoing monthly charge. I asked if the new management realized how much business they were losing from people like me who just really wanted to get a wash today and couldn't. So the attendant replied that he's asked numerous times for the policy change, but the new management wouldn't allow it. My question is there any way to get this question or complaint to someone at the car wash management team who might care and do something about it? Thanks for at least reading it. So first time I got an email about that, or somebody reaching out about no longer being able to purchase a one-off wash. What's your reaction to that communication? Also, can you share any new pricing structures or strategies that you've seen in recent months? What are the pros and cons of these changes? And what are the primary reasons that operators are doing this now?
Yeah, first of all, that's a tenacious person because anyone who is willing to reach out to the car wash multiple times, and he or she should have gotten an answer, right? I mean, being transparent, being honest, being ethical with your customers, that's first and foremost. It's what separated us apart from some of our competitors. Like, if the phone rang, we pick it up. Good, but look at it. We're not perfect. We weren't perfect. Good, bad, or ugly. Pick up the phone. Answer it, because you can engage anyone on any level, as long as you do it professionally and with tact and cool heads prevail, right? So this person obviously is upset. She likes this car wash. She wants to come to it. She can't. It's just interesting that someone would reach out to you. So I find that intriguing. And good for you and your magazine. I think I think there has to be a compromise. Just my opinion. I think there's a compromise, right? You can look at, there's this saying, we all know it. You can't satisfy everybody, but I think you have to satisfy the majority of your customers. Meaning, okay, the biggest complaint we always got, well, we had dualies come in, like we can't wash the dually. Well, you got a beautiful truck, so first always say something nice. You beautiful truck. We wish we could wash it. We just can't. We're not set up for it. The wraps and the top brush, and we can't even get you in the conveyor. Now there's places that can do that. But the percentage of those vehicles that come to your wash is minute. They're not going to change your balance sheet or your P&L whatsoever. So look to the 99.9% that are going to enhance your P&L and your balance sheet, which is every other customer. So I think there's you definitely always want to take care of your retail customers, in my opinion. And then you do want to hopefully migrate those customers into your monthly membership. But that was obviously a clear case of forcing somebody into a position they weren't comfortable with. And I haven't seen that out here in the Southwest yet. And in the last month, I've been in 4 or 5 states. I haven't seen that. I've seen aggressive membership marketing, which is fine. But I still think you have to take care of that retail. Like I said, that retail customer, maybe they only want to come once a month. They have a nice garage. It doesn't rain a lot. It's not, like you're, in Arizona. We get 7 inches of rain a year, right? You go upstate or back east where you are, or the upper Northwest. I mean, I'm sure those guys have a different mindset on memberships. There's people getting car washes a lot. If you want to join a membership, it's a great value play, both for the owner, operator, and the customer. So, but other than those rarities, dualies, the truck's lifted too high, the car is slammed down too low. I mean, there's probably a dozen reasons why you don't want to put someone through your tunnel. And it's always for the safety of their vehicle, right? It's first for the safety of their vehicle, second for the safety of your tunnel. They're spending millions on car wash equipment. Last thing they want to do is damage their tunnel, which creates it to shut down, and there goes some revenue for the day. So always a customer in mind. I think there's a happy medium somewhere.
Okay. Yeah, I think I got 7 inches of rain just in this last half an hour that we've been talking outside.
There you go.
So, this is a 70-year-old woman, right? She's on a fixed income. She comes to the car wash. She wants to get her car washed. There should have maybe been some communication ahead of time, maybe some signage, letting people know of the change. If you have email addresses or text, send out a message, or, you don't want people showing up on your lot and then being disappointed. That just creates, all sorts of word of mouth issues that can be, nowadays with the internet, they post their bad experience or they reach out to carwash.com and here it is on the podcast. So,
I think there's just some common sense to that, right? I mean, at the end of the day, express car washes, everything except the self-serve, it's a retail environment at the end of the day. Retail environment, and you're serving your community. And so we always want to be engaged in the community, or you should want to be engaged in your local community. Each Express Car Wash or full service, be engaged in your community. And how difficult would it have been to just, you've been a customer for 10 years, let me take care of you today. But going forward, this is our policy, this is our new procedure, this is what our new ownership group is looking to do. And so you satisfy her, but then she also has an expectation next time, like, this isn't going to happen. But you took care of someone in your community.
Right. There's no ill will. You looked out for them and you did the best you can. So, yeah, I feel like we're in the middle of a transition towards, like what you said, of maybe possibly being a monthly subscription for a car wash location as the standard moving forward. So maybe this is just the beginning of that. But, let's go back to prices for a little bit here, Brian, and talk about when you were an operator or now as a consultant, when should an operator absorb a price increase into their operating costs? And when should they pass these off to a new customer?
Yeah. So, look at there's always a reason to raise prices. Again, it's a retail industry. So when you see, especially in the QSR space, the quick service restaurant space lately, I mean, in the last 2 years, I mean, we've seen some really aggressive price increases from McDonald's or Taco Bell or Delta, all these QSR people. I think if you're, what's the best way to say it? There's times to pass along those increases or those costs to the car wash or owner. For example, your chemical costs, right? Your utility costs, especially. You have no control. You have zero control over your utilities for the most part. You can save some water here and there, electric, yes. But at the end of the day, out here, we have 2 electric companies. It doesn't matter what the economy is doing. I'm getting a 2, 3, 4, 5% bump every year. Like, I don't get to call up my electric company and say, "Hey, can we negotiate? Can you just stop this?" No. So those costs you need to pass on. Those are your fixed operating costs. There's time where you share in the cost of maybe it's a chemical cost or again, utilities, and then the big labor. I mean, labor is just again, we've got I don't know how the entire country works when it comes to it, or the minimum wage. You know, we have a federal minimum wage, but then we have state minimum wages, right? And we just had a bump. Texas had a bump. So those are fair. They're ethical. They're value-driven reasons why we might have to increase the price of a car wash. But I also like to stay fairly consistent with that. And I've seen operators go years and years without raising prices. And then all of a sudden it's like, we raised our prices, we got caught up, and then it's kind of like a sticker shock. Like, hey, that used to be 5 and now it's 8 or whatever. So I think consumers in general are used to price increases, and understanding that if you do it on a regular basis, it's a little less sticker shock than if you wait, because who knows why you're waiting, but maybe you waited too long and okay, now we have to get up to the industry standard. I think those are some really times when to absorb. I wouldn't step over nickels to pick up pennies. Okay. I think that's, again, I go back to the customer, building that base, your retail base, and then your membership base. There's always competition in the industry. What are your competitors doing? Are you priced too low to begin with? Loyalty, retention, and I'm just positioning. But those substantial, your TPT tax or your sales tax, that you don't have control over that. There's another one. And I'm just taking a look at some notes that, I jotted down as well. But also different sub-markets. let's say this in Scottsdale, Phoenix, Avondale, all different submarkets. Your prices might not be the same in every car wash, right? Because of things that are in play. So if you happen to live in Scottsdale, things are typically more expensive than if you live in, say, Albuquerque or Casa Grande or Tucson. So there's some dynamic pricing structures that are in play. But for the most part, I think having gradual increases is a plus. A mixed strategy of absorbing some of the costs and passing some of the costs. Are we competitive in the marketplace? What's the feedback we're getting? You want to always get feedback from your customer. There's no better feedback. So I think all those things come into play.
Yep, understood. You spend a lot of time with us here today for this interview, Brian. Certainly appreciate you writing these articles for us in the magazine and on the website. I know we have a few planned for later this year. Like I mentioned, you spend a lot of time with me today. I see the golf clubs and the golf balls in the background there, so I don't want to keep you.
Come on, we have to have our priority.
That's right. I don't want to keep you here too long in case you're planning to hit the course today, but I'll let you out with this final question here, and we've certainly talked a lot about it today. So maybe just revisiting some of these points. There's so much emphasis on membership these days in the car wash industry. But how can operators make sure that retail customers, these pay-per-visit customers, how could they make sure that they also feel welcomed and special, and that operators, how can they make sure that they're delivering value to this portion of the customer base?
Yeah. So again, that's where I said there's that compromise between membership and retail. I think that retail customer, I think it begins with transparency, being ethical, being honest in the space, making sure that you're being competitive on the retail side with your competition around you, and then engaging that customer. Again, getting feedback from your customer is the best feedback in the world. And if your managers aren't constantly engaging your customers, they should be. They should. You got a 12-hour window from 7 a.m. to say 7 p.m. when the car wash is open. You should be engaging and collecting that data and that information, that feedback from your customers for 12 hours, because that's going to help you upload that data, that information to your C-level brass, so they have a better understanding of, what our customers want. I always used to say in the car wash industry, doesn't matter what I want. I built the thing. It's my money in there. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what Brian wants. It only matters what my customers want. And if they want tire shine, they want a tire shine machine. Let's get a tire shine machine in there. If they want, a lot of people have gone to, and I think it's excellent. And I got it yesterday, and I used free towels. It's a towel service. Right? These were great, 16 by 16, 24 by 24 inch towels they smelled good. They were clean. I used them on my vehicle, which is rare sometimes. And they just did a fantastic job. So the customers like that. They don't want to go to a vending machine, buy little towels anymore. No, let's provide you with this. This is what you want. We're gonna provide these with you. And so I just go back to, what does the customer want? It doesn't matter what the owner wants. It doesn't matter what the investors want. It only matters what the customer wants. And if they get what they want, typically the owner, the operator, the investor, is those private equity firms we talked about. Usually they're pretty happy people.
All very great points, Brian. I noticed a common theme as we were talking today about pricing, and that's communication. Whether you're communicating changes, communicating value, communicating, what works with the customer and what doesn't work with the customer directly with them. All fantastic feedback, Brian. You spent a lot of time with me today. I definitely appreciate it, and thank you for all the work you're doing on the magazine and on the website carwash.com.
You're welcome. It's a blessing. I appreciate it. Thanks, Rich.